Bambies, Kaleidow here and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be building another tiny home. So this is actually going to be a new sort of building series on my channel because I just adore tiny homes and you guys seem to really like the 10K challenge video that I did the other week. And I had to build like under the constriction of having only 10,000 simoleons, which was so much fun to me. So you know what? I thought it would be even more fun for me to build within like small areas, like small little buildings and just do my thing because I've just been loving this channel recently called Houzz, so H-O-U-Z-Z, and it's actually a website, but I've been watching their videos here on YouTube and I am absolutely in love with tiny homes, guys. Like, I have this obsession, and because I do not know how to build in real life at all and I don't have the means to in real life, of course, I want to build as many tiny homes as possible as I can in The Sims 4. So I'm probably going to be building a bunch every week or so. I have so many written down on this piece of paper next to me. I don't want to give away any of the ideas yet, but just be warned, there's gonna be a lot of tiny little cute houses on the way. But yes, I hope you guys are excited. I sure am. And yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this build because this one's actually inspired by one of our family friends' homes who actually lives in the middle of basically nowhere in the bush at our hometown. So out in the country. So this is sort of based on a junkyard sort of home. I only visited their house probably 2 or 3 times and I just fell in love with how magical and different it was. Basically, they had around 2 or 3 carriages. Actually, I think there was 3 carriages of an old train. So somebody had just dumped it out there because it wasn't being used anymore. And this family decided that they were going to make their home out of these carriages, and it was just so interesting how they had their house and like their living spaces set up, and I really wanted to kind of portray that with my own spin. So yeah, this is a house, a very tiny home created with the aesthetic of being a part of a train. So carriages that had been renovated, and yeah, so I tried to give them a bit more of an antiquated feel than the family that we know lived in. They were a bit more like hippy dippy, but I do make the outside look a little bit more like what I remember back when I was a kid, while the inside is a little bit more luxurious in what I'm creating today. But still, I feel like I really did do the house a lot of justice, actually. I really love how the outside comes about, and yeah, this kitchen is very muchly inspired by what they had actually, especially the double sink and looking out to the like nature and everything. I really loved that their house had like, because train carriages have windows all along the sides, and I thought these windows that came with the vampire stuff pack or game pack, sorry, really suited it. And because on one side it's just like a plain frame, and then on the inside it's a bit more ornate with some decorative like features to it. So that's also another reason why I went for this style for the inside, because I wanted it to match the windows because that's what I started from, and I really thought these windows did suit the carriage feel. So we are going for like reds and oranges in this build. I have a lot of black and white also to kind of juxtapose that, and I think it really goes nicely. And on the outside here, I do a lot of fun stuff with the actual carriages later on, but as you guys probably could tell at the beginning of the video, I did put a toy train and sized it up, but I don't remember our friends actually having the actual engine part of the train at their house. It was just the carriages. But they had a lot of carriages. And I think they had like an abandoned one, which they hadn't renovated yet too, but they had like 2 or 3 that were living spaces. But I also have in this build another toy carriage at the end of the other one, but I do end up getting rid of that later on because I want to bring the carriages and everything forward, because right now it's all pushed right at the back, and it left this huge like space at the front, and I didn't really know what to do with that, so that's why I end up just pushing it back. But yeah, I made sure to add a whole bunch of quirky little things here and there in this build. Of course, the people that I knew, they were very quirky people and very awesome people, I have to say though. They were very down to earth, and they collected a lot of things. I wouldn't say they were hoarders, but they definitely had like a lot of trinkets around the place. They obviously couldn't be hoarders because they lived in a small like space, so they had to make sure that they didn't have too much things, but it definitely wasn't organized when I went to their house. It was a space that it was kind of permanent, and they just had all of their stuff thrown in there, and they were living in it, you know, like stuff doesn't always have to be tidy. So I'm throwing around a lot of paintings and things, layering them up, and I definitely was going for the more, not Renaissance, but like, I don't know, old style kind of feel in here. And I really like how I ended up doing the dining table, how it has the little bench there. I wish that I could have done something a little bit different in this part of the train carriages, because in theirs, I remember they had the chairs that were next to the windows were the original ones that came with the train, and I thought that was really, really cool. But they also had the parents' bedroom in that main carriage at the front, so that was connected to like the kitchen and the main bathroom, etc. While at our friend's place, they actually had most of the chairs pulled out of the other carriage for their kids' like living area, like their bedrooms. So in this build, I ended up kind of like flipping it. So in the kids' area in this build, we're going to have all of the chairs, and you guys are going to see how I do that shortly. And in the parents' kitchen area, we have it more like renovated and different. It's definitely its own little house. You can kind of see remnants of it being a carriage, but it just feels like something else. It doesn't really feel exactly like a train anymore. And it also sort of reminds me of stuff like Anna Karenina or Karenina. I can never say her last name correctly, but it really reminds me of like the train in that, like the style in it, sort of like Victorian. Really, really like it. I love the bathroom in this, how like white and whimsical it is in here. Very, very pristine. And same with the bedroom, with the master bedroom actually. It's very lovely indeed. And it just feels like a fairy tale. And I kind of feel like this build entirely is a bit of a fairy tale, because when I would go and visit our friends, because they lived out in the bush, it did feel like we were going into another world. And I used to love going out there, and I don't know if you guys have been out in the Australian bush in the middle of nowhere before, but it is weird. Like it is a whole nother world. Like there are strange creatures out there, and you hear weird things all the time. And when somebody tells you a ghost story, you better listen up, because it will freak you out. And I love it. I love it. I love just remembering going out into the bush to our friends' places to just, I know, play around the granite rocks and boulders with our friends, and just, it was just so much fun. And I am going to be including a whole bunch of boulders in this build when we get to the landscaping part, because this house was, well, it's based off the house that was like in the granite belt in Australia. So if you guys haven't been to the granite belt, it's basically at the top of New South Wales-ish, and it kind of goes down into New South Wales. And it's a belt which is just granite rocks. So like where I grew up, there was granite rocks everywhere. My yard, where I grew up, there was so many rocks, and it would be such a hassle for some people to build their houses because it's just giant rocks sticking out of the ground everywhere. But the only downside about growing up in that region is that as kids, you really wanted to go into these like giant rock formations and like play around with them, but you weren't allowed to because like your parents are like, hey, there's snakes in those. Don't go in there or you're going to die. And then that would freak me out. So I would always have like this weird like taboo feeling about these rocks where I thought they were like, I don't know, evil to the point like my parents and like other people's parents scared me so much. It's like those spooky tales that like parents and I don't know, teachers and that tell you like, don't go near the well because there's a yowie down the bottom or something like that. Or like the boogeyman, like those sorts of stories. But yeah, I can't wait for you guys to see me include the boulders because that's something very special to me because it reminds me of home and where I grew up. And also, I think this is a great way to start off this series. Like, obviously, I'm going to have my 10K challenge video at the beginning of that playlist, but this is like my first add-on to this as a proper, real playlist, and I'm just so keen to do more of these. But right now we are working on the children headquarters is what I want to call it. So I did kind of blend two cells, two separate like sitting areas. I decided to keep in both of the doors. So it's like they kept the original infrastructure there and just got rid of one of the walls. Something that our friends did do was keep all of the original doors. They did do that, and I thought it was just so quirky and different when I was young, and opening doors was so epic when I was there. I just thought it was so cool. I'd never seen a door like that before, and they were just, yeah, and I loved the windows, like how many windows were like opening up to the world outside. It was really, really nice and such a different way to live, and it really, really inspired me. I really think I would probably be very muchly at home living in a tiny home. Honestly, I'm not the sort of person who likes to live in a giant mansion. I've never really liked the idea of it. Sometimes like it's an alright idea too. Like everyone sort of has thought at one stage in their life, yeah, I'd like to live in a mansion or in a castle, but to me, really, at heart, I've always wanted to live in something cozy and homey, and that is like the epitome of what a tiny home is. And the whole concept of spending more time with your family rather than focusing on objects, materialism, and consumerism, really. I really enjoy that, and I really want to exercise that when I get older and when I have the means to like buy my own house. I'd rather just like create a tiny home rather than a giant house. But yeah, anyways, back to the build. I've just been babbling on. I adore this kid's bedroom so much. So we have the sort of like original looking chairs there. I thought it would be cute to leave in a few to kind of give it more of a heritage feeling. And man, I really do like that I kept everything looking very Victorian in here. I have a feeling that our friends' carriages were actually not this old, but they were pretty old. They just weren't Victorian. They weren't like 1800s or anything. They're probably like, I don't know, 1950s or so. But basically in our region that we lived in, I'm guessing they found the carriages because the railway station in our region had been closed down for a few years, and the train probably hadn't, like, I don't know what they would have done with the train. There is a train that you can go into at my hometown, but like just to have a look at it, but that one must have been one of the other old ones that had just been dumped, and they just picked it up, which I love the idea of recycling, reusing. It's just a wonderful concept. I really like it. So I did squeeze in a tiny little bathroom in here. It doesn't have a shower, so they'll have to go into the other room or the other carriage to go and have their bath. But now we are adding some accents onto the carriages to give them a little bit of character to make sure they look different. Our friends actually, I think they did look very similar, but their parents' living area in the kitchen did look nicer, I'd have to say. Like, it looked more well kept, while the other carriages looked a little bit more aged and worn down. Not in a terrible way. It was just very, I don't know, I liked it. I liked it. It really matched the surroundings because they were out in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by rocks and boulders and giant old trees and a lot of junk too. Like a lot of people out there in the country don't really have the means to throw away stuff like old cars, old rubbish like scrap metal, etc. So there would also be like tires and things lying around. So it kind of was like a junkyard home, but it just was so wonderful and almost magical, as I was saying earlier, because it was just really just full of life and I really enjoyed it. So hopefully I have portrayed that to you guys in this build. I feel like I have made it look very magical. I'm kind of going off my memories. I don't think theirs were this vibrant of a red. I am using a custom content paint for the paneling on the outside because some of the EA ones are just not bright enough for my liking. And you guys know me, I love everything to be very bright and colorful. So if I can, I think it's Pastel Sims on Tumblr. I think she uploaded these, but I'll try to find it and link it down below for you guys because I know a lot of you would like to make your houses more vibrant. Also, I really like that I made these stripes on the second carriage a bit thicker on the bottom. I think it looks really nice like that. It makes them look very different and unique. Now we're adding in a whole bunch of boulders and oh my gosh, they're not even as big as they are in real life, guys. Like, oh my gosh. One day if you go to Australia, go check out the granite belt. It kind of looks like England. Well, that's what people say anyways, because it's like a part of the New England region, but it's basically very barren, rocks everywhere, and it's my home. It's basically my home where I grew up in that area. So I added rocks everywhere, and something that people do where I grew up was they build around the rocks and they also use them. So if somebody wanted to have a garden, they would usually like maybe blow up a big rock and then use all of the shards to create something to border their garden. So that's what my dad did at my house. We have so many like granite rocks that are bordering all of our gardens, like basically all of our gardens. And in this build, I more went for the whole, like they went around the rocks sort of feel. So it kind of looks like the train is parked, doesn't it? Oh man, well we are nearly done and you guys are probably going to see me relocate in a second because I did have this in Willow Creek at first, but I do move over to Windenburg eventually to make it look a bit more natural, even though it doesn't look like the Aussie bush. But here we are at the screenshot. So happy with how everything is looking. Oh my gosh, really love the red, white, and black color scheme I went for, and also this master bedroom, which is just so angelic. And the kids' carriage is just a dream come true. I would have loved to grow up living in sort of like headquarters like this and having my own like little space with my brother. That would have been so much fun, and I really envy my friends who got to grow up like this. But yeah guys, as you can see, here we are in Windenburg. It matches everything so much more than Willow Creek. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here. You can find this build on the gallery. My name on Origin is just Kaleidow. You can go and check it out. But yeah guys, I hope you all enjoyed. I'm so keen to build more of these tiny homes, and I hope you guys are too. But yeah, I love you all to bits, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye!